Yes, I see. When was all this, ma'am?
About 8 minutes ago. So you understand, you can help me then.
All right, let me get your police report here to fill out for you. Here we go. All right, what's your name, ma'am?
Oh, Mrs. Stevenson, Mrs. Albert Stevenson.
And your address?
5353 North Sutton Place. That's near Bridge, the Queensboro Bridge, and 2nd Avenue is
And what was that number you were calling?
Murray Hill 40098. But that wasn't the number I overheard. Murray Hill 40098 is my husband's office. He's working late tonight. I was calling to ask him to come home. I'm an invalid, you see, and some days I often need to be alone.
Yeah.
No, he says as long as I have the telephone right here beside my bed.
Yeah, well, we'll look into it, Miss Stevenson, and see if we can check the telephone company.
The telephone company said they couldn't check the call. The parties have stopped talking. I've already taken care of that.
Oh, you have.
Yes, and personally, I feel you should do something more immediate and drastic than just check the call. Good, just checking the call if they stop talking. By the time you check the call, you've already committed the murder.
Yeah, well, don't worry, we'll take care of it.
I say the whole thing calls for a search, a complete and thorough search of the whole city. I'm very near the bridge and I'm not very far.
Wait, you said
From 2nd Avenue, and I feel a whole lot better send around the radio car to this neighborhood at once.
Well, what makes you think the murder is going to be committed in your neighborhood, ma'am?
Well, I don't know, only the coincidence is so horrible. 2nd Avenue, the patrolman, the bridge.
Coincidence? 2nd Avenue, you know, is a very long street, ma'am. And you know how many bridges there are in the city of New York alone? Not to mention Brooklyn, Staten Island, and the Queens. Oh, and the Bronx.
I know all that.
How do you know it isn't some little house in Staten Island on some little 2nd Avenue you never heard of? How do you know they're talking about New York at all?
I heard about the New York dialing system.
Yeah, well, maybe it was a long-distance call you overheard.
No.
Ma'am, you know telephone, the funny things. Why don't you look at it this way? Supposing you hadn't broken in on this telephone call, supposing you got hold of your husband the way you always do, you wouldn't be so upset about all this now, would you?
Well, I suppose not. But it sounded so inhuman, so cold-blooded.
Yeah, well, a lot of murders are plotted in the city every day, ma'am, and we manage to prevent almost all of them, but a clue of this kind is so vague, it's not much more use to us in the at all.
But surely you
Unless, of course, you have some reason for thinking this whole call was phony and somebody was plotting to murder you.
Me? No, I hardly think so. I mean, why should anybody? I'm alone all day and night. I see nobody except my maid Eloise. She's a big 200-pounder. She's too lazy to bring up my breakfast tray. The only other person is my husband Albert. He's crazy about me. He adores me. He waits on me hand and foot. And he scarcely left my side since I took say 12 years ago.
Yeah, I bet. Look, well, don't worry about it, ma'am. We'll take care of it. Just leave the rest of this to us.
What will you do? Well, it's nearly 11 now.
Lady, we'll take care of it.
Well, will you broadcast it all over the city and send out squads and warn your radio cars to watch out, especially in suspicious neighborhoods like mine?
Lady, we'll take care of it, all right? I got some other important matters here on my desk I need to get to, so, here we go.